No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 359, and breaking right now, Mike Graham has today been brutally sacked by Rupert Murdoch after a talk civil war between Talk TV and Talk Sport, which led to this cold on-air announcement by Julia Hartley Brewer prompting a massive boycott of the former free speech station.
News UK, the parent company of the station Talk, has made the following statement. Their statement reads as follows: "We were made aware of an abhorrent and vile post on Mike Graham's social platforms several weeks ago. Mike Graham said this was not posted by him, and he agreed to cooperate with a company investigation using an independent forensic firm. He later reneged on several opportunities to cooperate with the company investigation. We have been gravely concerned at his repeated failure to cooperate on such a serious matter, and the decision has been taken that Mike Graham will not return to Talk."
So I will reveal the full inside story about the axing of Talk's most popular presenter and why insiders now believe it is the beginning of the end of the station in my digest next. Plus, we'll reveal Mike's future plans. But it's not the only civil war that has erupted in the UK today. This one could impact the future of the country. The coup against Slippery Starmer now officially underway, with number 10 Downing Street turning their fire on Wes Streeting.
No, and I think whoever's been briefing this has been watching too much Celebrity Traitors, and this is just about the worst attack on a faithful I've seen since Joe Marler was kicked out and banished in the final.
Unbelievably, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's advisers have been reduced to briefing that MPs can't get rid of him, and I'm not making this up, they can't get rid of him because it would destabilise international markets. Why does the Prime Minister think that there would be a market meltdown if the Health Secretary took over?
Mr. Speaker, this is a united team and we are delivering together. Look what we're doing. The fastest route of the G7.
But trust me, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is just a stalking horse, because the person hard leftists in Labour want to install to number 10 Downing Street is Shabana Mahmood to be the UK's first Muslim Prime Minister, and think about that would do for our disunited kingdom.
My faith is the most important thing in my life. It is the absolute driver of everything that I do.
We'll discuss the Islamist truth about the coup against Starmer with our superstar panel, Father Calvin Robinson, co-host of Reclaim the Media's Fox and Father, and Bernie Spofford, host of the brilliant YouTube channel If This Is True. Also coming up on the show today, the insane British bashing corporation digs its heels in against Donald Trump. We'll reveal what would be required to settle with the US president, and shocking new allegations against the Deputy Prime Minister, Calamity Lammy, which the MSM continues to ignore. Then, in the uncancelled after show over on Substack, the Kardashians delete all pictures of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party in another humiliating PR disaster for the Duke and Duchess of Delusion. We're going to team up with the royal YouTube sensation P. Diner for all the latest, and you can sign up to watch at www.outspoken.live. At the end of the show today, we'll also reveal a brand new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. Here are your three nominees for the worst Britain in the world today. You can vote between them right now in the live chat on YouTube. John Simpson, nominated by Kath Smith, who says he seems to think that because the BBC has 77 million viewers in the US, it's not corrupt and biased, and that it should be enough proof of impartiality. Zach Polanski, nominated by Matt Casey, who says the boob whisperer knows more about women's rights and wants than Carol Malone. FFS, he has no shame, empathy, or desire to help women. He's purely into the trans cult and their fetish wants and needs. And Rebecca Brooks, nominated by Sarah Booth, that is the chief executive of News UK, for sacking Mike Graham and blaming him for it. Think they've just flushed the company down the gurgler, to use Mike's words. Funny how a judge recently upheld that Tommy Robinson didn't have to hand his phone over under terrorism charges, but Mike Graham is sacked. So there are your nominees for today's Union Jackass. Get voting. I'll read your comments at the end of the show. But now, let's go. The death of Britain's corrupted MSM continues at an astonishing pace. Just like my defenestration from GB News represented the end of a true renegade approach to news and a move towards that channel becoming the establishment organ it is today, the removal of Mike Graham from Talk TV for a Facebook post that he insisted he never wrote is the beginning of the end, I think, for the previously brilliant channel. I mean, I loved it. I was there all throughout 2020 hosting the Drive Time show, and at that point, it really was the home of free speech. In the end, though, the woke campaigners at TalkSport, who have spent the past 5 years opposing Talk TV's political viewpoint, won the brutal civil war that has now raged for weeks inside Rupert Murdoch's News UK. It didn't matter that Mike was the top rating host, that he had previously turned down big money offers to defect to GB News, and that his blood, sweat and tears is a large part of the success of Talk today. It didn't even matter that there has been a mega viewer boycott and that ratings are down over half since his suspension. Because in corporate media, trust me, woke always wins. So in just 83 words, News UK Chief Executive Rebecca Brooks brutally ended Mike's decades-long MSM career with this statement. We were made aware of an abhorrent and vile post on Mike Graham's social platform several weeks ago. Mike Graham said this was not posted by him and he agreed to cooperate with the company investigation using an independent forensic firm. He later reneged on several opportunities to cooperate with the company investigation. We have been greatly concerned at his repeated failure to cooperate on such a serious matter, and the decision has been taken that Mike Graham will not return to Talk. Now it was left to Mike's longtime co-host and friend Julia Hartley Brewer to make the announcement to gobsmacked viewers.
We are the home of common sense. It's 2 minutes past 12. We are going to go straight to PMQs just a few moments. But as you will have heard in the news, that News UK, the parent company of this station, Talk, has made the following statement. Their statement reads as follows. We were made aware of an abhorrent and vile post on Mike Graham's social platform several weeks ago. Mike Graham said this was not posted by him and he agreed to cooperate with a company investigation using an independent forensic firm. He later reneged on several opportunities to cooperate with the company investigation. We have been gravely concerned at his repeated failure to cooperate on such a serious matter, and the decision has been taken that Mike Graham will not return to Talk. I'm afraid that is as much as I can say on that matter. I know that is going to cause a lot of upset and a lot of concern for a lot of our audience who've been with us for a very, very long time. But that is the official statement from the parent company of Talk, and that is where we are at in terms of Mike Graham, who will not be returning to this station. Let me introduce you to my guests in the studio. Claire Pistol is the former Conservative government advisor. She's been with me.
But that moment of high drama was followed by silence. Because there's no free speech anymore on Talk TV. And just like I was at GB News, Mike is now erased from Talk's history. It's as if he never existed. Hilariously, and sometimes you've got to see the funny side of these things, right? Mike has been replaced in the Talk lineup. They posted this new picture showing their fresh new lineup by, wait for it, Mark Dolan. Yes, Mark Dolan, the ultimate shill who did everything he could to take my job at GB News before eventually being sacked by management when it became clear the viewers were not going to forgive him. But he's safe, so Talk have anointed him Mike's successor. He won't take over the breakfast show, though. I'm told management want Jeremy Kyle in that slot, but he is resisting, as is Kevin O'Sullivan. Both remain close friends with Mike Graham.
Well, a very good morning to you. It is Monday, the 10th of November, and I woke up this morning and I thought, you know what? It's absolutely hacking it down with rain across the United Kingdom. The wind is blowing. It's awful, isn't it?
Welcome to Plank of the Week. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan. I'm in for Mike Graham, and I'm surrounded by beauty and glamour this week, at the risk of seeming like an old-fashioned sexist, which of course I am.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It is over for the MSM, and this is actually the best thing that could have happened to Mike Graham, even though he probably feels battered and bruised right now. As Calvin McKenzie wrote, sad to report that Mike Graham, the talented breakfast show presenter on Rupert Murdoch's Talk, has been fired by News UK over a post on his Facebook page which he said had been hacked. The audience has fallen by 60% since he was taken off air a couple of weeks back. Mr. Graham is expected to join Dan Wootton's growing stable of talent. Interesting. Come on over, Mike. It's good over here. Hard to believe the station will survive with Mr. Graham supplying a majority of the audience. His place has been taken by Jeremy Kyle, whose strong suit on ITV was insulting white council house tenants. Hacking has always been an issue with News UK. Rebecca Brooks was fired, then rehired as CEO after facing a lengthy Old Bailey trial accused of hacking. I have my doubts Ms. Brooks intends to hire or rehire Mr. Graham. And Father Calvin Robinson, who will be here live shortly, added, there was nothing abhorrent or vile about Mike Graham's Facebook post. Shame on Talk, News UK. I stand with Mike. Take the independent Republic of Mike Graham truly independent. Legacy media and its overbearing, controlled narrative is dying fast. And I've got to say, Mike was also right not to cooperate with News UK's dodgy investigation, as exclusively outlined for Outspoken by the brilliant new media sensation Lauren the Insider. Watch this.
Another day, another casualty. Mike Graham has been axed, ousted. Be gone with you, Mike, from mainstream media. What Talk don't realise is they have just given Mike the biggest start in independent media, because people no longer want to hear propaganda. And he is a casualty because he's not fitting in with their woke agenda. I do not blame him for not giving them access to his phone and computer for their independent investigation. It's not an independent investigation, in my opinion. Why would you let the very company that has spent £1.2 billion in the phone hacking scandal anywhere near any of your electronic devices? No, thank you. This is another casualty that has fallen by the wayside in mainstream because of their woke agenda. They have hung him out to dry to make an example of him, to be seen to be doing the right thing. Ultimately, this is utter bullshit.
And so many of us in the independent space, even though, by the way, I don't agree with Mike on lots of issues, like on Tommy Robinson, for example. But that doesn't mean that I don't think this will be a boon for Mike's career. Indeed, my old friend Abby Roberts, author of the new book Hot Banana, posted on X, "This is Mike Graham's Tucker moment," referring to Tucker Carlson. Fuck Talk TV and their bootlicking censors. Go for it, Mike. And I wanted to hear a bit more from Abby Roberts on that, actually. So she sent us this exclusive.
Hello, it's me, Abby Roberts, comedian and troublemaker, and somebody who's very used to being censored and cancelled. I've just seen the news that Mike Graham has been sacked, or as the Americans say, canned from Talk TV for something he said or didn't say, or possibly offended somebody, or it was outrageous. I don't really give a shit. He has been sacked for his free speech, and because he refused to take part in a Maoist struggle session. Well, I've got news for you. Legacy media, including Talk TV, GB News, you're on your way out. You're on your way out. There's a new media landscape full of free speech, full of offence, full of words that may offend you. So stop clutching your fucking pearls and wake up, because it's over. It's over. Mike, come into the new media landscape waters. It's lovely and warm. I'll see you over there.
And I mean, I do have to say, the longer the shills in the MSM hang on, the harder it's going to be to come into this space. So this is good timing for Mike. And I have to say, when I saw him posting overnight on X, what an ugly bint, when someone called him a big fat useless blubbering racist, I knew his new era was upon us. And I think it's going to be big for him. I mean, his anodyne first video has already had over 1 million views. Watch.
Good morning. I'm Mike Graham, and I just wanted to say a special heartfelt thank you to all of you brilliant listeners and viewers who have sent me some of the most fantastic messages of support over the last couple of weeks. I really appreciate it. I've read every single one, and they really do give me great encouragement. So thank you again. I also wanted to say a personal apology about having to cancel the show at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, The World of Common Sense, this week. But don't worry, it'll be back next May the 26th to be precise. So we will see you then. Meanwhile, I'll see you soon.
Of course, there has been total silence today from every talk presenter, even though Isabel Oakeshott was happy to make this on-air dig yesterday.
Isabel Oakeshott, how are you?
Good morning. Well, I'm still getting used to seeing you at this time of the morning.
Well, there's an answer to that, but I'm not doing it on national radio. The BBC, many people are saying to me this.
Not cool, and there's fury from the audience. Sandy of Suffolk wrote, so Talk TV have just announced Mike Graham will not be returning to Talk. Shame on Talk. Utter shame. Disgraceful treatment. This is from Simon Wright. Disgraceful treatment of Mike Graham by Talk TV. They wanted access to his phone, messages to his friends and family, his photos, emails, bank accounts. He's not a terrorist. They did it to Dan Wootton. Who is next? One slip of the tongue, and Julia Hartley Brewer and Kevin O'Sullivan, you're gone. Queen Natalie posted just like that, a 1-minute statement, and he's gone after pouring years into Talk, grinding through low ratings when no one was listening. He stayed loyal. No doubt turned down big offers from GB News. He did, I can confirm that, when others jumped ship. Lesson, loyalty means nothing in the MSM and establishment. Mike, this is your chance. Go full unfiltered. Say what you really think. No more chains. The worst takes were unsurprisingly from GB News, which seemed to call his post vile, and Narinder Kaur, who wrote, Mike Graham officially sacked from YouTube channel Talk after failing to cooperate with the investigation on his racist Facebook post. Why didn't he just cooperate? I doubt Talk would have done anything. A channel steeped in hate towards brown and black folk, a slap on the wrist and a pat on the back. Narinder Love, just wondering, why aren't you talking about woke ITV allowing Adil Ray, the host of Good Morning Britain, to advocate for the introduction of Sharia law? Thought that might be a little bit more important for you, but clearly not. But look, big news. Because in the past hour, Mike Graham has announced his return to the media independently, where he has pledged to continue broadcasting popular segments like Plank of the Week, which suggests he's in a position at the moment of like, to hell with you, Talk TV, to hell with you, News UK. So I want to take you through his major announcement. He has posted, it is with a mix of fond memories and excitement that I share this update with you all. After an incredible journey as the presenter of Morning Glory on Talk TV, my time at the station has come to an end. More on that in the coming days. It has been a truly enjoyable experience, a platform to engage in lively debate, connect with brilliant guests, and most importantly, to amplify the voices that matter most, your voices. That said, it's time to move on to the next chapter. I've been immensely grateful to my viewers and listeners without whom the show would have been nothing. Your passion, your questions, and your unwavering support have made every broadcast meaningful and every conversation electric. You turned a program into a community, and that bond is something I'll carry with me always. I'm thrilled to announce my new venture, The Mike Graham Show, launching on YouTube with full details and updates on my webpage at themikegrahamshow.com. This is where I'll continue to serve the public in the ways that have always driven me, holding politicians to account, highlighting injustices wherever they arrive, and being a relentless voice for those who feel ignored or overlooked by the government. The fight for truth, fairness, and common sense doesn't stop, it just evolves. I hope you'll come with me on this journey. Your energy and engagement are what will make it special. Stay tuned for some more announcements in the coming days. Exciting things ahead. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Let's keep the conversation going. He then sent an email to his Substack subscribers, revealing more details of which I want to reveal to you now. He says, The Mike Graham Show will be my new portal to the chaos of current affairs, where we'll unpack topical issues, grill top guests, and deliver all the unfiltered fire you loved from Morning Glory. No holding back, no corporate leash, just straight talking truth and a good laugh along the way. Keep an eye out for fan favorites like Plank of the Week, daily posts, hot takes, and opinions that'll keep you fired up. And we will be ramping up the live show, so get ready for some real-time showdowns. This is going to be a blast. Join the ride. Let's make some noise together. Hashtag Mike Graham Show. Hashtag no holding back. So it's on. It's on. And for me, this is a good moment because what it shows is that the MSM is on the way out and independent media is the future and the truth. And now on that note, let me bring in two independent media superstars on our superstar panel. Bernie Spofforth and Father Calvin Robinson with me. So Father Calvin, it looks like Mike Graham listened to your advice. He's going independent.
He absolutely should. Fantastic news. The thing is Mike already bigger than Talk TV? Are they going to regret this decision on day one? Because as people have pointed out, he has his own audience. He's been there for many, many years, slogged it out over the dry spells, when there was a mass exodus over to GB News, etc., etc. He hasn't been treated with much loyalty, has he? And I don't actually think he's done anything wrong, to be honest with you. In fact, I do think he's done one thing wrong. He should have just owned it and said, yes, this is my opinion. I stand by it. To say, oh, I was hacked is a bit wet. But, I get it. People want to protect their livelihood and protect their jobs. But
because Calvin, let's come back to that. This is really important because you don't actually think this initial post, which News UK described in that statement today as abhorrent, where Mike Graham was talking about the fact, why are we surrounded by so many non-white people? Even though you are a non-white person, you don't actually think it was abhorrent.
Why would it be? Mike Graham is an English white person in England, a predominantly white country, and he's asking the question of why is he being ethnically cleansed, in his own words. Like, surely anyone should care about that. If I went to Japan and saw that there were very few Japanese people in a city, I'd be like, why are there not more Japanese people here? This is very strange. What's going on? He has every right to ask that as a white person in a white country. There's nothing abhorrent about that. There's nothing vile about that, unless you hate white people, which is what the Liberals clearly do. They hate white people. They are often anti-white racists. And Talk is obviously, playing the game of trying to feed the crocodile and to seem, not woke, but to seem politically correct. Just forget all that. Mike Graham is known for saying what Mike Graham thinks. And I don't always agree with Mike Graham. I surely don't. But I've watched his show and listened to his show for years and years. Him and Julia Hartley Brewer are Talk TV. So they've just cut away half of Talk Radio, Talk TV, whatever they want to call themselves. I think it's just Talk now, isn't it? But again, you don't have to agree with these people. You don't have to agree with them on everything. Even if you disagree with this message in particular, compare and contrast. Tell me we're not effed by multicultural. B, why are we surrounded by non-white people? I mean, why are we surrounded by non-white people? I am a non-white person myself. I find it very strange that England, which was a predominantly white country for over 1,000 years, has suddenly, in major cities, become predominantly brown. Something's changing, and it's changing very fast. If white people don't ask now, it may be too late for them to ask in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, by the way, because I obviously don't agree with Mike Graham on lots of things, but that doesn't mean that we should want him to be cancelled and that he shouldn't be able to have this discussion. Bernie Spofforth, what do you make of what happened today?
Well, first of all, it's caused a really big problem in my house because the only station that's listened to in my house in the morning is Mike Graham. And now there's quite a lot of tantrums going on. So thanks a lot, Talk. Look, as someone who was viciously cancelled and arrested for making a mistake, I'd just like to point out again what Keir Starmer said a few years ago about making a mistake. Now, I don't know if Mike Graham wrote that post. I don't know if he was hacked, right? And none of that matters. What matters is what Keir Starmer said. And he said, if you make a mistake and you delete it, it's over. And that's exactly what should have happened to Mike Graham. And what Talk have done, and look, I understand it. You have this huge vocal minority who's very woke there. And some of them, I'm sure, were very deeply offended. And they're right to have what opinion they want to have. Everybody should be entitled to that. But in the same way, Mike should be entitled to have it. And I think sunshine is the best disinfectant. If you don't like what Mike Graham says, don't listen. It's that simple. He has has an opinion, he's expressed it, you don't like it, don't listen. Why fire him? He didn't say anything illegal. He didn't break the law. What he did was break the woke code. And I know that sounds really harsh. And I am very sorry for anybody who was deeply offended, but it's not against the law to offend somebody. Well, it didn't used to be.
Well, it didn't used to be, but look at what's happened with Joey Barson. What's so interesting, though, of course, is that Mike's listeners would have been happy to have that discussion. I think if we were in America, what would have happened is that we could have all had a debate, right?
Exactly.
Mike could have had a debate about his post. You know, it's like that whole discussion, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, etc., etc. Let's get Mike Graham versus Tommy Robinson, because Mike said some terrible things about Tommy Robinson, but I want to see that conversation, and I would happily moderate that conversation. And I think that's what the mainstream media is so scared of doing. But here in the independent space, actually, sometimes it does involve having in-depth discussions with people who you don't necessarily agree with on everything, because we can have that nuanced debate without advertisers saying that we're going to be cancelled. Sorry, Benny.
And we should.
And that's how the human race develops, right? We debate ideas, we debate what people think, even when we don't agree with them, and we live together. You can't just shut people down and get rid of them because you don't like what they've said. But look, there were rumors, weren't there? I saw some paperwork that some of the stations won't even allow their presenters to call Rachel Reeves Rachel from Accounts. And that's what we've
Yes, that's GB News. They've banned it. They've banned it. They've banned the nicknames that I used to use when I was on GB News, and I now use on Outspoken. Like, you can't call Starmer Slippery Starmer. You can't say the British Bashing Corporation, etc., etc. Father Calvin, what did you make of the fact that Julia Hartley Brewer was first forced to announce this news today? A very unenviable position for her. And then on this free speech station, she has to say, but that's it. We can't talk about this. And there's been radio silence from all the Talk TV presenters today, Father Calvin, and I do feel uncomfortable about that. I mean, would they really be sacked if they said, look, Mike's a great friend of mine, I've loved working with him? We've seen none of that.
Mike will get absolutely zero support from his former friends and colleagues. He will find out that friendship is actually very transactional. And now that he's on the outside, he will remain in the cold. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is in that industry. It's disgusting, but that's the fact of life. Who's left there? I think it is just Julia's the only major star left there. There's Jeremy Vine or Kyle, whichever one it is, that plays it very safe. There's not many people that have any household names. But, you know, as much as I love Julia Hartley Brewer, when I got fired, I went on her show, and when the cameras went off, she was like, yeah, I would have fired you too. Like, she's very much plays the party line. She won't step outside of that sphere. She will protect her job. Everyone else on the TV station there will protect their jobs over their friendship with Mike. And I'm sure privately they'll be sending him messages of support and to let him know that they still love him, etc. But that's not what matters when you've lost your platform. But he will thrive. We know he will thrive. And I think you're right to say he shouldn't have took part in their little coping session, their struggle session, as Abby Roberts called it, because you should never give over your phone to an organisation or any institution that wants to kind of find fault. And that's what they're looking for. They're not looking to find understanding. They're looking to find fault. And it's incriminating yourself. They may have found other messages that they disagreed with. And it's exactly what happened to Tommy Robinson, who's just been found not guilty of the terrorism charges that they tried to use against him to force him to give up his phone. I don't think anyone should ever give up their phone in those certain circumstances. But it would be lovely to see some public support for Mike. And again, I don't agree with everything he says. I don't think we should ever agree with everything anyone says. But I do think it would be nice to see some of his friends and colleagues have his back. But I would be very surprised if it does happen.
And Bernie Spotforth, I have to say, I'm stunned that the management have decided to promote Mark Dolan permanently into the lineup over someone like Alex Phillips. What are they thinking?
I don't know. Maybe Mark Dolan is easier to control. Maybe he's going to follow the party line better. He doesn't want to lose another job again. And also maybe Alex decided she didn't want to get up at that time in the morning. And if that is the case, Alex, totally behind you, totally.
Yeah, well, just to say, it's not the case that Mark has replaced Mike on the breakfast show, but he's become one of their main flagship presenters. Now, I think that spot should have gone to Alex Phillips. I really do.
Yes, me too.
I think it's a big mistake that they've made, Father Calvin.
Oh, I agree. I think Alex has more than earned her medal. And I've buried the hatchet with Mark, but I was very upset with the way he jumped into your grave at GB News. And so to see him jumping into Mike Graham's grave is a little bit, I'm getting deja vu now.
I know, it's like, do you not learn your lesson? Seriously. Oh, goodness gracious me. Goodness gracious me. But look, fundamentally, I think the point that Father Calvin has made is utterly critical here. It's not about agreeing with everything that Mike Graham has said, everything that he has done. As I say, not just about that post, but about his views on Tommy Robinson. It's not about that. It's about the fact that the only way we are going to save this country, and they are the stakes, are if we have journalists and broadcasters who do not live in fear. And the problem is this culture of fear, which has been introduced as a result of the sackings of myself and Father Calvin Robinson and Lawrence Fox and Mark Stein from GB News, has now swept across the media. It's very much in place at Talk now. This is why we need to support independent media ventures. And I'm not talking about me at Outspoken. I am so grateful for your support of me over the past year. It has blown my mind. It's been absolutely incredible. And we are flying now. And so that's why I want to support others like Mike Graham to get into this space, to make something of it. Because if you look at what's happened in the US and the way that there is this thriving conversation, it's all driven now by the independent media. It is no longer driven by the mainstream media, not even Fox News anymore. A major coup is underway against Slippery Starmer. But the mainstream media isn't telling you the full truth of what's going on here, so I will. And you've got to trust me on this. Wes Streeting is a stalking horse. He will not end up being Prime Minister, even though I think he's a hard left socialist. Ironically, he is considered too moderate amongst the Islamists in the Labour Party, who have one plan and one plan only, which is to install Shabana Mahmood, the current Home Secretary, to be the first Muslim Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This is an astonishing story, though, and here's how the news was broken. And you've got to be so fascinated by this. Broken in a coordinated manner by the mainstream media as the clock hit 10 p.m. last night.
Chaos in Downing Street as friends of the Prime Minister say he will face down any leadership challenge. We've heard extraordinary accusations from allies of Sir Keir Starmer that the Health Secretary is plotting a coup. Accusations Streeting's team deny. So what is going on?
It's emerged Sir Keir Starmer's allies are moving to protect the Prime Minister amid fears he's vulnerable to a leadership challenge in the wake of the budget. Number 10 is said to be in full bunker mode over growing speculation Health Secretary Wes Streeting or Shabana Mahmood could be planning to move against him, despite being thought to be amongst his closest cabinet allies. Mr Streeting has fiercely denied having designs on the top job in the past. Senior Downing Street aides are warning that any attempt to oust the Prime Minister would be a reckless move that could destabilise the Labour Party.
These are whispered chats away from the cameras, but they do matter. And if you have a feeling of deja vu, me too, a Prime Minister under pressure, his own side getting jittery, feverish talk of plots, and then allies seeking to mount a defence. It happened under the Conservatives more than once. Here it is happening under Labour, and it has come about this time round because those who support Sir Keir Starmer are making it known that he will, as one put it to me, fight any attempt to topple him. In other words, they're saying he won't walk away from the job. There would be a contest if someone wanted to run against him.
Now, Wes Streeting was on the morning broadcast round this morning and had a whole load of cheesy cliches to pull out to his mainstream media friends. Watch.
No, and I think whoever's been briefing this has been watching too much Celebrity Traitors, and this is just about the worst attack on a faithful I've seen since Joe Marler was kicked out and banished in the final. I've definitely been watching too much Celebrity Traitors in Downing Street. I think they should swap it for Country File in future and calm down a bit. I'm a faithful. In fact, what you've seen from a silly number 10 source overnight is probably the worst attack on a faithful since Joe Marler was banished in the Traitors final. Totally self-defeating briefing, not least because it's not true. And I don't understand how anyone thinks it's helpful to the Prime Minister either to suggest he's fighting for his job at a time when, last time I saw him on Monday evening to talk about violence against women and girls and how we tackle it, he's fighting for the country and trying to turn it around.
I mean, I'm laughing because I just think this is ridiculous. No, the Prime Minister is not fighting for his job this morning. In fact, the last time I saw the Prime Minister on Monday evening with a small group of Cabinet colleagues was to talk about how we're going to fight the scourge of violence against women and girls. So I think this is daft, to be honest. In fact, I think someone in Downing Street has been watching too much Celebrity Traitors, and this is just about the most appalling attack on a faithful I've seen.
No, I'm not going to even allow him to say it again. They all treat this as a laugh, right? I mean, the traitors line was then used when Slippery Starmer exited Downing Street to PMQs.
Is the Health Secretary a traitor or a faithful, Prime Minister? Prime Minister, your MP is trying to get rid of you. Are there any traitors in number 10, Prime Minister? Good morning. Do you need a padlock on that door?
Oh, ho, 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 ho. It's just the country that's collapsing, you know. But again, as I say, Wes Streeting is being used strategically here as a stalking horse because those in Labour and number 10 who want Starmer out, and trust me, it's most of them, know that Streeting's not the man to do it, and they want the Home Secretary in place. Now, the only MSM outlet that really went there was the Daily Telegraph. Let me take you through their reporting on this. They said Sir Keir's supporters have accused Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, and Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, of being on leadership manoeuvres. And we saw that with one of Mahmood's chief supporters, Maurice Glassman, on Newsnight after the news broke.
Is this Home Secretary the right woman to address some of those issues?
For me, absolutely. I mean, she's the only one of really genuine quality of the whole lot, but she's got a job to do. She's got to stop the boat. She's got to sort out the prisons. So at the moment, I'm not in favour of any challenge to the Prime Minister and full support for Shabana Mahmood in the work she's doing.
Did you hear that? At the moment. At the moment. And then Maurice Glassman went on to attack Wes Streeting.
Wes Streeting is a very new Labour. I absolutely dispute, Nick, that he's the closest person to Keir Starmer. He's a Blairite apparatchik out the student union, so all they know is leadership battles and motions and things like this. It's of no relevance whatsoever.
Now, look, I know that lots of folk are going to be thinking, why on earth would they go for Shabana Mahmood? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the top bods in Labour believe that the biggest threat to their vote outside of Reform UK comes from the Islamist parties. The Green Party, under the tip whisperer, Zach Polanski, who's gone full-on Islamist, and your party, that Islamist mob which wants to take over Birmingham, the West Midlands and the country, led by Jeremy Corbyn and what's her name, Zara Sultana. So what's the way to get that Islamist vote back? It's through going for Shabana Mahmood, who, remember, and I'll show you the proof, has said that her Muslim faith drives everything.
Islam, my own religion, like a lot of practicing Muslims, my faith is the most important thing in my life. It is the absolute driver of everything that I do. I feel a very strong calling of my own conscience, and my conscience calls me to God.
So trust me, this is the beginning of the end of Slippery Starmer, but there is going to be a huge amount of manoeuvring behind the scenes over the past few months. But the guy's broken. The guy's a joke. He's now a laughingstock. Here he was at PMQs.
Unbelievably, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's advisers have been reduced to briefing that MPs can't get rid of him, and I'm not making this up, they can't get rid of him because it would destabilise international markets. Why does the Prime Minister think that there would be a market meltdown if the Health Secretary took over?
Mr. Speaker, this is a united team and we are delivering together. Look what we're delivering. The fastest growth of the G7.
I mean, it's astonishing, by the way, that there is still no understanding amongst our political class of just how much trouble we are in. Because I don't see the funny side of this at all. The economy is being destroyed. Our culture is being destroyed. We are at threat because of the mass immigration. I mean, it truly, truly is nuts. And that's before you come to the Islamist threat. So to my superstar panel, Bernie Spofforth of If This Is True and Father Calvin Robinson of Fox and Father. Father Calvin, you know that I have been very public about the fact that I know Shabana Mahmood is on manoeuvres, okay? And it was really telling to me today that her name was sort of mentioned, but everyone was going for Wes Streeting because they want to keep her safe, Father Calvin. The Labour left want to keep her safe, keep her hands clean. So to make it look as if Wes Streeting is the guy who's going for Starmer, so he can be damaged and then she slips through. They want her as Prime Minister. Honestly, I am convinced.
So that's like when they let Patrick Christie sit in for you before Mark Dolan took the seat. I guess. I mean, it's a
Or the other way around, yeah. Mark Dolan sat in and then Patrick Christie's took the seat, but yes.
Sorry, yes. If we have a Mohammedan in the office of Prime Minister, the country's done, it's cooked, it's final, it's over. We have to do everything we can to avoid that. And if that's what the Labour Party are aiming at, then people need to start speaking up against this from the very beginning. And I don't really understand the infighting between Wes Streeting and Shabana Mahmood and all of them. Anyway, like the whole thing needs to be done. We need to have a general election. Let's let the British public decide rather than the politicians on the front bench who's going to run our country. And hopefully that will mean Labour would get kicked out of office. But who would get in is the problem.
But Bernie Spofforth, if you just look at this right from a straight electoral perspective, you can understand, can you not, even though I think it's terrifying and chilling, why those in Labour think that it makes sense. It's like if you can't beat him, join him. I mean, you do know, Wes Streeting only won his seat by 500 votes. It was an Islamist who was in second place. Same with Jess Phillips. All of these people on the Labour left, including Angela Rayner, including Yvette Cooper, are at serious threat of losing their seats to Islamists. So you make an Islamist your party leader, that for them equals survival. So even though I think it's insane, can you understand why a lot of them are advocating for this from an electoral perspective?
Yeah, I can't only understand it, but I agree with your analysis completely. It makes total sense. And why would you put Wes Streeting in the position of leader when he's going to be wiped out? Now, the only good news here is that Labour will be absolutely decimated at the next election. So all of this school-type politics cannot cover, and all this traitors bullshit. Why would you play around when our country is close to having to go to the IMF for a bailout?
It's not funny.
It's not funny.
It's not
There's
a game.
Nothing funny about anything that's happening. There's nobody in the cabinet with any private experience whatsoever. But to get back to this underhand kind of Islamic takeover that you're talking about, I think what is quite interesting is that Labour have been instrumental in underpinning all this for many years. So the Race Relations Act in 2000 expanded the 1976 Act to force a statutory duty on all public bodies to promote race, cultural equality. There was nothing to say that anybody had to integrate with us. So it created strong incentives for institutions to manage identity in a parallel life type of way. That's why there has been no integration and why it's now perfect to try and fight off, like you say, the Greens and the Independents by building this parallel lives within Labour. My point to all of this, and there have been lots of acts that have taken place after the over the last 20 years to implement this parallel lives type system, is that it doesn't matter, Dan. They are wiped out. I cannot see any member of the cabinet surviving at all, including her.
100%. But you know they're going to try. That is the key thing. They're going to try. And what will probably happen closer to the next election, Bernie, is some of them will end up defecting to the Greens, to the Islamist Party led by Jeremy Corbyn. By the way, I've got to speak about this guy, Dr. Amir Khan, as well. So he is the new GP on ITV, Woke ITV's Lorraine show. And yesterday, he did this ludicrous interview with Slippery Starmer where he said, as a brown person, I've never felt more unsafe in the United Kingdom today. Allowing Starmer to talk about how we've gone back decades and we're racist and all of that. This dude then appeared on the Newsnight sofa last night and ended up being exposed. And I want to show you how. But first, let me just introduce the argument that he made in this conversation with Victoria Derbyshire on the BBC Watch.
What I think politicians have done, or politics has done, is rather than address those issues, they've turned that anger sideways towards immigrants, towards Muslims, towards Jewish people, to anyone who feels other.
Right.
And I think that's a deliberate policy. I think that is something that has been manufactured to look away from a failing economy almost, and job issues and that kind of thing.
Interesting. Can I just ask you, Dr. Amit, has racism directed towards you got worse in recent times?
Yeah, so both, a lot of my family work in the NHS and we've all felt it individually, felt it. I think, just to finish my point, if that's okay, this kind of deliberate manufacture of culture war to divide us is really important. And I think part of the story in all of this racism and divisiveness is Brexit, because originally that was a debate around sovereignty, but it became a lightning rod for anger. It became a lightning rod for people who felt left behind.
The hordes that they talked about, wanting to invade our country.
Well, yes. And then once that debate was over and the referendum happened, none of the underlying issues were solved. So the same politicians and politics who are saying this is what happened, they're now blaming other people.
Okay, so you know how awful this guy is, right? Clearly awful in every way. But he's then put on the spot because he makes these implications. Remember, he said that he has never felt so unsafe as a brown person in the United Kingdom. He makes all these implications that he is personally under threat. So he is asked quite directly, have you ever experienced any racism in your job in the NHS whatsoever? Watch what happens.
And where people are going to see brown people or black people is in the NHS, it's in public services, it is in driving them to work, driving their trains, all of those things.
And are you saying that people are saying to you and people you know who work in the NHS, I don't want you to treat me because you're, what, brown?
Brown, Muslim. I am a Muslim.
People
I'm a proud
are actually
Muslim
saying
man.
that to you?
They haven't said it to me, I've got to be honest.
Okay.
I do work in Bradford, but I have heard it from very, very close friends.
So Father Calvin Robinson, there you go. I've never felt so unsafe as a brown person. This is everywhere. All this implication. So has this happened to you? Oh, no. No. I've just heard it from others. He's a liar. I'm sorry, he's a liar.
And listen to the two sentences. So the first one, he said, me and my friends are feeling it, right? The racism is increasing, we're feeling it. And the second sentence, he says, I haven't experienced it. So he's not experiencing racism, he's feeling racism. That's internal, that's not external, that's not from other people, that's from himself. He is the issue here. And actually, I find it very interesting when he said, no, I haven't experienced it, I'm in Bradford. That's a good point too. Bradford is too brown. Bradford is too Mohammedan. Bradford is too Asian. It's still an English city. It should be predominantly English. And to say these things is racist at this point, but it's a fact of the matter. England is a predominantly white country full of predominantly English people, and every city and town should be that way. And I'm not saying there can't be minorities and that you can't have some multiculturalism, as in some people from other places and other cultures and other faiths, if you want, but it should still be predominantly English, predominantly white, predominantly Christian. Bradford is a case in point, that it is no longer that way. And if he feels safe to say that I am in Bradford so I don't experience it, how does he not feel safe in the country anymore? How can he say, as a brown person, I no longer feel safe? It's a lie. But if it is true, then leave. There are brown countries you can go and live in.
So it's completely insane to me that the British Bashing Corporation is digging its heels in, does not want to settle with Donald Trump, even though that clock is ticking ahead of the 10 p.m. UK time deadline on Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Now, I have learned through my reporting overnight exactly what Donald Trump is prepared to accept financially in a settlement with the BBC. I'll reveal all in just one moment, but first I want to show you his first public comments on this matter overnight to Laura Ingraham on Fox News. Watch.
Are you going ahead and suing the BBC?
Well, I guess I have to. You know, why not? Because they defrauded the public, and they've admitted it, and they're top echelon.
Director General and the CEO
This
both
is
resigned.
within one of our great allies. You know, this is supposedly our great ally. BBC, the government has a chunk of that one, I guess, but that's a pretty sad event. They actually changed my January 6th speech, which was a beautiful speech, which was a very calming speech, and they made it sound radical. And they actually changed it. What they did was rather incredible. They're showing me the results later on, the results of what they did, how they butchered it up. But it was very dishonest, and the head man quit, and a lot of the other people.
Okay, so I've got some news to make on this. My US sources very close to Donald Trump, including his legal team, have revealed that Donald Trump wants $15 million from the BBC. $15 million. That is 11 million pounds, as well as an apology to take legal action off the table. Now, remember, Trump had not even demanded resignations, despite the fact that Tim Davey and Deborah Turness are both out. And I'm told he is yet to even receive acknowledgement from the BBC Council of his threat to sue. So, Father Calvin Robinson, Bernie Spofford, let me bring you in here. To me, Father Calvin, it is a no-brainer. I mean, okay, yes, there are people saying, well, the BBC will win in a Florida court. But the risk of that, Father Calvin, is massive. I mean, you could actually argue, given Trump is saying he's suing for $1 billion or that he will sue for $1 billion, it would be a £700 million gamble for the British Bashing Corporation. Now, I know there's some people like you and me who actually want the BBC to take this risk and then be forced to shut down. But you know what would happen, Calvin? Slippery Starmer, would just end up bailing the BBC out with more of our money. So, to me, an £11 million settlement, a full and wholesome apology to Donald Trump makes sense. What do you think?
I want to see it go to court.
I knew you were going to say that.
I want to see the BBC found guilty of the crimes they continuously commit, slandering, libeling, manipulating the truth. You know, the whole...
And imagine the discovery,
thing.
Calvin. Imagine the discovery, the emails, what we would find.
It's an atrocious organization. They're not journalists. They're not professional in the true sense of the word in reporting. They control the narrative. They manipulate the narrative. And they've messed with the wrong guy this time. They've messed with the biggest, most famous, one of the richest people in the world. They're going to suffer the consequences, and rightly so. And if it costs them a lot, good. If it means the BBC is shut down, good. If it doesn't, at least people will know not to trust them in the future.
But Bernie Spofford, from a BBC business point of view, the arrogance to be leaving it this late, to even acknowledge the letter, to seemingly thinking that they can play fast and loose when they don't have a director general, they don't have a CEO of news. I mean, they're mad, aren't they?
Well, isn't that just the arrogance of lawyers? And also, Father Calvin, brilliant. Yeah, but isn't that just the arrogance of lawyers? So he's got till 10 o'clock on Friday night to reply. So at 9:30 on Friday night, they'll reply and say, yes, we've received your correspondence. That's just how it works.
But that's not going to be good enough for Trump, though, is it? He doesn't play by these rules.
No. And I would also like to see the BBC in court. And from a business point of view, let me just say here, because it is quite interesting, the BBC employ 22,000 people, right? Of those 22,000 people, 2,000 of them work on the private sector side, on the commercial division, which means 20,000 people are being fed by the taxpayer. And the hilarious thing is that 1/3 of its entire revenue comes from those 2,000 people. It is a public sector quango, I would say. It's incredibly arrogant. It absolutely needs to be broken up. It needs to face the same risks any other private sector business does. Calvin's exactly right. Take them to court. Because the Donald Trump information, as you rightly say, in disclosure would be incredibly interesting. And the public would then be able to see exactly how they're being manipulated, not only over Trump, but let's go back to COVID and the masks and the lockdowns.
Yes.
Let's look at all the climate.
All of their trans madness.
Yeah. And all of the climate stuff and all of that madness. I want to see full disclosure. And if it breaks up the BBC, then do you know what? It was quite good in the 70s. I quite like Call My Bluff. It was good. But apart from that, all I see now are repeats
Bernie,
and propaganda.
all of these people who keep talking about, it was so good in the 70s and the 80s. Okay, you were shielding at the time the world's biggest ever paedophile, by the way, in Jimmy Savile.
Absolutely.
So I'm sorry, I just refuse to hark back to what was this apparent golden days. No, the BBC was effectively operating a paedophile ring, and right up until Hugh Edwards recently. But of course, those in the elite class want to turn this into a new culture war issue. Look at this post from Deborah Meaden. I couldn't believe it. She wrote, and obviously she was the former Dragon's Den woman, wasn't she? When Tommy Robinson is calling for the end of the BBC, you know it is doing something right. But as Tommy said, Father Calvin, you were on the wrong side here. Not me, Deborah, but it just shows you how pathetic their arguments are.
That's really sad, isn't it? Like, I don't agree with Tommy on everything, but just because he is against the BBC, what, everyone else should be for it? That's an absurd argument. But I think you are both right in that the BBC is so arrogant. And I think the reason why is they've never faced any consequences. With the Martin Bashir fraud over Princess Diana, with the COVID lies, with the NHS lies, with Hugh Edwards, with covering up for Jimmy Savile. All across the decades, they've been corrupt and complicit in evil, and they've never faced any consequences because they're too big in the United Kingdom, and the government needs them. And as we saw over COVID, they are an arm of propaganda for the government, and so there are no consequences here. But
totally, but I really liked.
He's outside of that.
Absolutely. I really liked what Matt Letizia had to say about this. He wrote, "It's been mildly amusing to watch people who rely on the BBC for their wages deny all sense of reality and bring up all sorts of straw man arguments to justify why the BBC should still exist. Its reputation is in tatters and no amount of falling from left-wing lovies is going to rescue it. The game's up. The propaganda is too obvious." And Bernie, I think he is right. This is going to be a long, slow, painful decline.
And for me, what I think is hilarious are all of those people protecting the BBC, saying it's not biased. They're all on the progressive, liberal side of the argument. And all you need to do is dig down into the numbers, because they spent £158,000 on the Guardian newspaper, which was double any amount they spent on any other newspaper. Now, if you want to be unbiased and you want to be middle ground and you want to give a good argument, then you would think that there would be equal purchasing of newspapers so you could give both sides of the argument, right? But they don't do that, and they don't recognize their bias because they all think the same way.
Yeah, I mean, Father Calvin, you have been one of the original campaigners for defund the BBC, but it's so interesting, isn't it, Father Calvin? Like loads of your campaigns, it's mainstream now. It wasn't when you started, but this is now just a mainstream position.
This is the problem of being ahead of the curve, isn't it? Absolutely. I was the face of defund the BBC campaign back in the day, and we had loads of people who were on our side, but it was ahead of the curve. And we knew that Boris Johnson was on our side. We knew that Dominic Cummings was on our side, and we may well have got it done if it wasn't for COVID, which came and messed up the entire situation with that particular Conservative government. And from then onwards, it looked like we'd never get it done. But now, finally, with the vast majority of people finally waking up to how corrupt the BBC is, maybe we will finally defund the BBC.
Calamity Lammy, Britain's embarrassing Deputy Prime Minister, is getting away with so much. He is getting away with so much because of all of the other disasters engulfing this Labour government. So it's time to start calling him out. Because the problem is, if it was only the fact that David Lammy was the thickest cabinet minister we'd ever had, then maybe I'd be okay with it. But he's truly nasty as well. By the way, if anyone is doubting me that this is a guy who simply cannot rub more than two brain cells together, I do have to remind you of this.
What was the married name of the scientists Marie and Pierre who won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1903 for their research into radiation?
Antoinette.
Curie. James Gandolfini played a mafia boss called Tony in which American television series?
Godfather.
The Sopranos. Which variety of blue English cheese traditionally accompanies port?
Leicester.
Stilton. Who acceded to the English throne at the age of 9 on the death of his father Henry VIII in 1547?
Henry VII.
Edward VI. In chemistry, what French word is used for a tube for transferring measured amounts of liquids?
Pass.
But since becoming Deputy Prime Minister and entering the cabinet, Lammy has not just proven to be totally incompetent, but also completely entitled. And I was disgusted that the MSM ignored this case with the French taxi driver whose dispute with Lammy saw him end up in court. But he's now speaking out.
French, 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 French.
So that is the French taxi driver in question, Nassim Mimem, who alleges that Lammy and his wife Nicola Green opened a car door at 75 miles per hour, threw rubbish from windows, and was disruptive during a 7-hour drive. He says Lammy brought shame on our country. He also claims he was slapped and verbally abused. Now, Lammy's team dismissed the story as complete nonsense, but can you just imagine, for 1 second, if a senior Conservative cabinet minister like Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, or Boris Johnson himself had been caught up in this type of drama, you would not have heard the end of it. And why I can talk about the story today is that driver has now been cleared of theft charges in France. So I want to take you through some of what he has told the Daily Mail. Under this headline, he is a bum and a wicked man who brings shame on your country. And it's like true, right? He is a bum. He is wicked. He does bring shame on our country. So let me read you this reporting. Few among David Lammy's many critics will have savoured the details of his calamitous week with quite as much relish as a certain French taxi driver. Oh dear, it is scandal after scandal with your Deputy Prime Minister, says Nassim Mimem, shaking his head in mock disapproval while reading his newspaper. Mr. Lammy's mishaps, it turns out, are newsworthy in the south of France as well as Britain. Your minister is a bum. Lammy brings great shame on your country, but I'm glad he's in trouble because he is a shameful, wicked man. Having made rather a chump of himself in the Commons over prisoner release bungles, Mr. Lammy is feeling the heat. Pressure keeps mounting. Criticism remains intense. Cowardly was one description of his behaviour, and that was from a cabinet colleague. Yet Mr. Mimem's words stand out as particularly harsh. That's because it is his personal with the driver and the minister. They have history. Mr. Mimem claims Lammy ruined his life. It all goes back to the early hours of April the 11th at a mountain resort in the French Alps when the two men argued bitterly over a taxi fare after a 7-hour journey from Italy. That much is undisputed. Untangling the crisscrossing claims surrounding the 360-mile trip and its aftermath, some involving Mr. Lammy's wife Nicola Green, is another matter. During the altercation over the fare, Mr. Mimem says the then Foreign Secretary sitting behind him punched or kicked to the back of his seat, shouted about the effing French, and slapped his neck. He was going crazy, says Mr. Mimem. I thought he was going to come for me and that there would be a fight. That's why I drove off. Now, Ms. Green told police that at one point Mr. Mim showed her a knife in the glove compartment, while he says he saw a holster on Mr. Lammy's hip and assumed he was carrying a gun. He says he was so convinced that the Foreign Secretary was panicking that as he sped off after the row, Mr. Mim slid down his seat lest Mr. Lammy tried taking pot shots at him. Of course, there was no gun, just as police found no knife. What Ms. Green saw, says the chauffeur, was a silver pen. Nothing is quite what it seems with this affair, and much is still unexplained. Why, for instance, would Ms. Green, as Mr. Mim claims, open her door while he was doing 75 miles per hour on a motorway? What led to this dramatic act? Mr. Mim offers only that she seemed in a filthy mood and wanted to get out of the car, even though a service station, as I repeatedly told her, was only a couple of minutes away. Things didn't all go well for the 360-mile trip, he says, when before they set off, she turned her nose up at his Ford, describing it as after requesting a Mercedes with leather seats. She was cold with me and grimaced when she saw it, he says, while her husband asked about its horsepower. This was when things were still relatively cordial. Nearly all of what would later unfold as the atmosphere in the car soured remains contested, but one crucial issue has now been put before a judge. The Lammy's allegation that Mr. Mim stole their luggage and €700 was rejected by a court in eastern France last week. Claiming a memorable victory for the little guy, Mr. Mim tells the Mail that where once the odds were stacked against him, at last the tide is turning. He says it was cruel for Mr. Lammy and his wife to accuse him of stealing, as the sum, he says, I took in cash was the exact equivalent of what I was owed. He adds, this made the police think I was guilty. Thankfully, the court believed me. This was nasty. I mean, look at the state of the car, by the way. This is our Deputy Prime Minister leaving a stranger's car in that revolting state. He says this was nasty. I could have gone to jail. It is Lammy who is the thief. He hasn't paid me the extra sum I was owed. Now, the Lammys dispute all the driver's allegations. The Mail says whatever the truth is, though, this was an unseemly affair that, as one French diplomat observed, Riley left the entente cordiale, if not broken, then fleetingly bruised. To my superstar panel, Bernie Spofford, host of If This Is True on YouTube, and Father Calvin Robinson, the co-host of Reclaim the Media's brilliant show, Fox and Father. So, Father Calvin, I mean, firstly, right, I just look at the state of that vehicle and I think you're just scum, Lammy. You're just utterly atrocious. Like, you do bring shame on this country. And I find it shocking, Calvin, that given this did go to court, right, given this was put in front of a judge and this driver has been found not guilty of the crimes which, remember, Lammy alleges against him, yet this hasn't been a big story. It's been ignored by the mainstream media.
As someone in your comments suggested, the arrogance and aggressive attitude of Lammy in the Houses of Parliament makes it easily understandable that this is what he's like in private, and probably worse. And it seems to me that he's playing cry bully. He got accused of doing something wrong, and instead of putting his hands up and saying mea culpa, he accused the victim of doing something wrong in return. And now we know that driver's been cleared of the accusations of theft. We can only assume that the only wrongdoing remaining is Lammy's, and the evidence is there of the mess. Who leaves someone else's car in that state to begin with? I've taken many Ubers in my time. I've never left one in that state. But the fact that he was abusive and aggressive towards the driver just goes to show that he is not someone who's competent enough or capable enough to be a representative of the British people. It's embarrassing. It is a shame on our country. It is a shame on the British electorate. And we need to recall him and put someone else in his place. Who voted for David Lammy in the first place?
100%. Bernie Spofford, what do you make of the driver's account?
I don't know. He's been found, he's been proved in a court to have been telling the truth. And the deduction from that is that David Lammy wasn't telling the truth. But for me, I could never take David Lammy seriously, not only as a politician, but as a human being, because don't forget, he believes that with medication, men can grow a cervix. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that this is a man that should be running anything. And it leaves me in no shock whatsoever that he left the car looking like a 7-year-old had been in it, because probably most 7-year-olds would believe a man could grow a cervix. He just like most of the front bench, much like all of the backbenchers, Labour MPs are not capable of being in government, of representing this country in any way, of being in charge of anything whatsoever. Go back to school, go and play your little student politics. Just don't do it in government. And that's the really big problem we've got. He's a joke. He's a joke.
He is. He absolutely is. Brilliantly put. Thank you so much to my fabulous superstar panel, Bernie Spofford. You've got to subscribe to her channel, by the way, if this is true. Just does the most brilliant work, including, by the way, this viral investigation into King Charles, which is must watch. So just search for If This Is True on YouTube. And of course, Father Calvin Robinson is back now. They took a little break, but he is back hosting Fox and Father alongside Lawrence Fox, which you can find on the Reclaim the Media YouTube channel. Thank you both so much. You know, I always love having you.
Thanks, Dan. Love you, Bernie.
Thank you, Dan. Love you too, Father.
And of course, we will reveal today's greatest Britain Union jackass in just one moment. Before that, though, so much feedback from you coming in on Mike Graham's sacking from Talk TV today. Thank you for the super chat, by the way, Philip Shep, who says, I think Mike would be fantastic on your channel, Dan, and maybe you can correct him about Tommy Robinson. Look, to me, it's not even about needing to correct him. It's about having that discussion. Let's have the debate. In the independent media space, in the US, they are so much better on that front, and I want us to be able to have those discussions. As I say, I would love to moderate a discussion between Mike Graham and Tommy Robinson. That would be really interesting to me, and I think it would be respectful. Dom B says, Mike was the only presenter I watched on Talk, never watched a single second of it since he was removed and never will. Have also unsubscribed on YouTube. Margaret Yates says, ha ha ha, Mark Dolan who took your space, Dan. That's because Mark Dolan has now been boosted up the Talk presenter lineup in Mike's spot. Susan Charlie says, it would be good if Mike Graham did an independent morning breakfast show to compete with Talk. Watch this space, I think. Trish4977 says, oh God, Mark Dolan, what a joke. I stand with Mike, won't be watching Talk anymore. Chin up, Mike. We are all behind you. Gareth Littlehood, 7129, says, Mike Graham will succeed and be more financially better off as an independent. In fact, he could set up Talk as a channel. He needs to copyright Morning Glory and Plank of the Week so Talk TV can't use it. And Bob O'Bowie. Oh, thank you, Bob. I've just seen this. Dan Wootton is an example of how a curse can be a blessing. He got unfairly fired, then started an independent news source with hundreds of thousands of listeners. He won, and others can do the same. And I genuinely believe that. I want other people to be in this space because this space is the future. And Barbara Cleverly 9058 says, well navigated, Dan, choppy waters, but you have bobbed up where others have stunk. People down here at street level value loyalty and friendship. And that is absolutely true. So much feedback. And as I say, I feel very positive about what's to come for Mike Graham. Okay, a reminder of your nominations for the worst Britain in the world today. John Simpson, nominated by Kath Smith over his constant defence of the BBC. Zach Polanski, the tit whisperer, nominated by Matt Casey over his position on trans rights, and Rebecca Brooks, nominated by Sarah Booth for sacking Mike Graham from Talk TV. Okay, John Simpson has come third with 18% of the vote. The runner-up with 28% of the vote, Rebecca Brooks. But today's Union Jackass, the worst Britain in the world today, the Green Party leader, Zach Polanski, with 54% of your vote. And we've got a bit of a theme going on here because today's Greatest Britain, nominated by Real Mick Cass, is Mike Graham. Mick says the moronic decision to sack Mike Graham means he deserves this. High time these pathetic executives grew a backbone and stopped pandering to the leftist agenda to cancel folk. Mike Graham's viewership was huge. Talk could have just signed their own death warrant. Very powerful there from Mick. Thank you so much for being with us today. But we're going to move over to Substack now for the uncancelled after show with all the latest royal news as the Kardashians delete all pictures of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party. that is another PR humiliation for the Duke and Duchess of Delusion. So we're going to team up with royal YouTube sensation P. Diner for all the latest over on Substack. That is www.outspoken.live. I will be back with you live, though, tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hit subscribe right now on YouTube, and please also do subscribe to our podcast, which is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify as a video, wherever you get your podcasts. And all I ask is that you rate and review, because it really does help us. Remember, Outspoken, totally independent. We have no parent companies. We have no big money investors. So all you can do to spread the word means everything to our growing independent news force. And remember, most importantly, as always, I promise to keep fighting for you.